Hello, my name is Jada Watterson, and this is my conflict resolution proposal that refers to interpersonal conflicts between colleagues in educational settings. So, my objective for the proposal is to reduce and effectively resolve any conflicts between colleagues within the school, which would ultimately lead to a more collaborative, supportive, and positive work environment for everyone involved. And not only will it have those benefits for the faculty and staff of the school, later we'll talk about the benefits for the community and the students as well so that we can address all of the stakeholders. So, the action plan that I have created kind of goes along with the timeline that we will discuss later as well. So, the first step of the action plan is to establish a conflict resolution committee. And this committee would be made up of representatives from several different departments. And this can be done school wide or it can be done district wide. Regardless of the scope of the committee, it will include, people from different departments such as administrators, teachers, support staff, and even the HR people. It could be the HR director or it could be someone else on their team as well. And this committee would be trained in conflict resolution strategies, most of which we discussed over the course of this class. And some of those strategies include mediation training, leadership training, and effective communication training. And we will get to the timeline later, but this committee will be formed at the beginning of the implementation of this plan within the first couple of weeks. And the responsibilities of a conflict resolution committee member can be found in the resources. I kind of guided what I was thinking of a conflict resolution committee on these resources here on this conflict resolution committee from a different university. The second step would be to create an anonymous way to report conflicts. My first thought was a Google form. I know that Google mines data, but for the purposes of this conflict resolution plan, it would be confidential because the person filling out the survey or form would be able to choose whether or not they put their name on it, and the members of the committee who would have access to seeing the responses to the form would not be able to see the name or the email address unless the person filling out the survey chose for that to be available to them. So that was my first thought. I know that there's a lot of different survey resources out there, and the committee could choose one of the different surveys. They could consult the IT department of the school district to see what they thought would be best for an anonymous reporting system, but it would need to be implemented. And this would need to be implemented after the formation of the committee, so within, week 3 or 4 of the conflict resolution plan. After the committee has been established and the conflict reporting system has been made, then the committee should begin to offer training to others within the school. This can be the same training that they have already received, like the mediation training, or it could be, a smaller version of that. I don't want to say a dumbed down version, but just more of like a general overview version, or it could be the exact same training. But this could be done by the members of the committee, or they could also get an external guest speaker, whoever completed their training, to come and give this training to other members of faculty within the school or the district. And this would allow the people who are not necessarily on the committee to get a glimpse into what the committee is learning and the strategies that they can implement themselves without having to go straight to the committee as soon as a conflict arises. And this should be offered within the first 6 weeks or so of the implementation of this plan. Step number 4 is to establish a clear conflict resolution procedures. And this will be developed by the committee. I put on here that this should be drafted within the first 8 weeks of the proposal timeline, but the conflict resolution committee can begin working on this as soon as they are formed and trained. It doesn't necessarily have to wait until that 8 week mark, but it definitely needs to be set in stone and implemented by that 8 week mark. And then step number 5 is to gather regular feedback and evaluate. So no plan is going to be effective unless the members of the committee or the people coming up with the plan are willing to gather feedback and solicit ways to improve. So that's exactly what this committee is going to do. Once all the aforementioned steps have been implemented, then they need to start coming up with surveys that they can send out to stakeholders, mainly the faculty and staff of the school or the district, in order to look at the effectiveness and the satisfaction of those that the plan is serving. And people filling out the survey will also be able to suggest improvements based on their experience, and this will allow for a continuous improvement cycle for the conflict resolution committee. And this should be implemented around the 3-month mark and redone quarterly so that there can be an continuous improvement. We talked about earlier within the objective the benefits for faculty and staff, but there is also benefits for other stakeholders for this plan. The benefits to the students is that their teachers and their administrators will overall become better role models for them because they'll be able to model the correct and the appropriate way to go about conflict resolution to their students. And when students are able to see the conflict resolution be effective through whatever means necessary, like mediation or any other strategy, they will be able to implement that in their own lives and hopefully take that out into the workplace themselves. But also there's less of a disruption to the learning that may be caused by any conflict that their teacher is experiencing as well. And then as for the community, the reputation of the school as a whole will be boosted by the implementation of a conflict resolution plan. No one in the community likes to hear about a school that just has a lot of internal issues, whether that be with admin or colleagues, within teachers. And that creates an inherent distrust from the community. And implementing this plan and having it be or become effective would increase that reputation, and that would lead to better educational outcomes overall, because not only are the students more engaged, the community is more trusting of the school. And then these are just a couple of anticipated problems and solutions. I thought that some colleagues might not trust the confidentiality of the reporting system, and that's why I mentioned that my first thought was a Google form, but some people do have concerns about certain platforms mining data, and they may not trust the confidentiality of that. So the solution would be that the committee can ensure the anonymity of the reporting process if they were to use a Google form. They could show the person that the responses that they are seeing on their end do not have any names attached to it, and that may lead to some peace of mind. Or the committee could be even required to sign some kind of contract that binds them to confidentiality. I know that I've had to sign some of those before, dealing with student information, so I don't think it would be difficult for a school district to create some sort of contract that holds these committee members to anonymity when it comes to the conflicts that arise in the school. And then another problem is that some colleagues may be resistant to the conflict resolution or mediation process. And that's something that can be experienced not necessarily just in education, but just with people as a whole. And I think that offering the optional mediation training would allow some people who may initially be resistant to see how the process works and see what training that the committee members have received, and then they may be more trusting of the committee members and of the plan as a whole. And also, people may be resistant, but having them see the benefits, we could, come across other reports of schools implementing plans that are similar to this and show them the benefits of it. And by seeing the research, they may be more trusting of the process and may be more willing to engage in the resolution process. As for resources required by the school or the district, there will be a financial need for a budget for training sessions and external mediation services or guest speakers if needed. And then also there may be a stipend needed for those who are on the conflict resolution committee, as it does add some responsibilities to their job as a whole. So there would also need to be a budget for that as well. There's also a need for the committee to be committed to the time that they have already committed to. People shouldn't sign up for the conflict resolution committee or be considered if they're not willing to put in the time that is required. And then there also may be a need, like I said earlier, for the IT department to help with the conflict reporting system and help figuring out what the most effective and the most anonymous platform would be. And then as for evaluation, I mentioned earlier that the surveys will be sent out every 3 months to create a continuous improvement cycle and to continuously evaluate the process and the overall faculty satisfaction with the plan. And potential improvements can be solicited and implemented so that the faculty and staff know that their feedback matters and that it's been being taken into consideration. And the committee members will be able to measure their success by seeing a decrease in reported conflicts, an increase in conflicts solved through mediation, and overall positive feedback from faculty and administration. So they could get a baseline number of the conflicts that occur within the school or conflicts that are reported, and as they get more and more surveys in, as the plan is implemented for a longer amount of time, they can see whether or not it has been effective. And then down here in Appendix A is just the conflict resolution proposal timeline. We sort of talked about it in each of the steps, but this just kind of lays it out all in one document. So first you'd form the committee, then establish a reporting system, conduct trainings, develop the resolution procedures and put them into place, and then develop the satisfaction surveys. And then after all of that is done, then implement and monitoring the satisfaction surveys and responding and implementing feedback will be the next steps, along with, of course, continually monitoring the conflict reporting system and, responding to conflicts and mediating those as well will go along with the satisfaction surveys. So then down here you'll see resources, and that is the conflict resolution proposal that I have come up with for interpersonal conflicts between colleagues. Thank you.